Marcus Aurelius was the Roman emperor during the 2nd century AD. But other than being an emperor of the most powerful nation of the world, he was also a prominent contributor to the philosophy of Stoicism. Now, whether or not you've heard of Stoicism, you probably have seen Marcus Aurelius before. Recall the old man in Gladiator? Yes, that was Marcus Aurelius. All right, so imagine this, man, like the most powerful man in the world, basically. All right, he is defending his vast empire that ranges all the way from England to Spain to Africa to Arabia and Turkey. It's a vast empire, and he's defending his empire against the barbaric Germanic tribes. And during this time period, while he's out on the battlegrounds, he's writing in his war journal. All right, he's writing to himself he's reminding himself how to live the philosophies and the lessons that he was taught during his time of being brought up as an emperor. And these notes to himself, which was essentially his war journal, eventually became published as the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. They weren't originally meant to be published, but today they are looked at as one of the most influential and, insightful philosophies of our time, all right? Now, Meditations has been one of my most influential books that I've ever read. I try to embody the Stoicism philosophy into my own life, and in this video, I'm gonna go over 7 life lessons from the philosopher king Marcus Aurelius. So, the first big life lesson from Marcus Aurelius is to concentrate on the present moment. Now, this is a bit cliche, but the way that Marcus puts it in his journal has been such an eloquent way that it's established that I want to read it out right now. All right, so concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, and with justice, and on freeing yourself from all other distractions. Yes, you can. If you do everything as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life, and stop being aimless, stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you, stop being hypocritical, self-centered, and irritable. So Marcus Aurelius is writing this during the 2nd century, but the way I see it, it's actually more applicable right now in today's day and age than it was back then. Because look at the amount of distractions that we have, man, from our smartphones to our social media to our email to our TV to people calling us to our email. Like, I think I said that already, but we live in a time where there's more distractions than ever, and Marcus Aurelius is writing in the 2nd century AD that you should free yourself of these distractions and focus your attention on what's right in front of you. Even as I make this video, I'm trying to bring my attention over here, and so that I can deliver value through this camera, and hopefully the message can be delivered to the other side as well, all right? Because at the end of the day, nothing exists in the future and nothing exists in the past. The only thing that you have is the present moment. So if your attention is diverged outside of the present moment, then you are basically living in your head and missing out on the only thing that truly exists, which is right now. And the second life lesson from Marcus Aurelius is to live with purpose. And he writes, people who labor all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse toward are wasting their time, even when hard at work. So this is something that I've gone through and contemplated a lot as well, like confusing busyness with productivity. Like I'm working, all right? I'm spending all this time working, but that work the purpose of it is to fill the time rather than to achieve a higher ideal, which I should be striving for. So like he says, people who are not directing every thought and impulse towards a particular purpose that would increase the quality of their lives or the quality of lives of others, or has a definite purpose in mind other than just being busy, they are wasting their time even while hard at work. And again, this is a constant battle, and you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of what I'm doing right now? What is it directed towards, and what is the outcome that I seek to realize after putting in this time? And that brings us to the third life lesson from Marcus Aurelius, and that is to control your thoughts. And I quote, your ability to control your thoughts, treat it with respect. It's all that protects your mind from false perceptions, false to your nature and that of all rational beings. And this quote by Marcus Aurelius actually brings to mind a quote by the Buddha himself, who said that your enemy cannot do you as much harm as your thoughts unguarded. All right, so your thoughts determine a large part of your state of being, and you have to be very conscious of the thoughts that are going through your mind, because a lot of them can be influenced by the environment, a lot of them can be influenced by factors that are outside of you. And this is why a mindfulness practice is so important, because when you're sitting there and you're canceling out all the stimulus that's coming from outside and just sitting there with you and your thoughts with your eyes closed and no stimulus outside, and getting a deeper perspective of what's going on in your inner world, you can figure out if your thoughts are actually benefiting you or moving you away from your goals. All right, this is why mindfulness is such a key practice that I strive to do every single day. 30 minutes at this point. I started with 10 minutes, but this is why I highly encourage all the guys I work with one-on-one to adopt the habit of a mindfulness practice every single day, so that they can control their thoughts. All right, it's a powerful tool that can give you mind control over your own thoughts, because when you're sitting there, you're just observing. All right, so the analogy that I like to use is that it's like clouds in the sky. All right, thoughts are like clouds in the sky. They come, they go, but you are the sky. You are ever present, and you are watching them as they come and go. And when you begin to identify as the sky rather than the clouds in the sky, then you know that the thoughts are just coming and going, and they don't define who you are, so that you can consciously think the thoughts that would help you and move you towards where you want to go. And that brings us to the fourth life lesson from Marcus Aurelius, and that is to love your fate. And I quote, that every event is the right one. Look closely and you'll see. Not just the right one overall, but right. As if someone had weighed it out with scales. Keep looking closely like that and embody it in your actions. So a belief that I strive to embody is that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you. And the reason for this is because when I look back on my life and all the stuff that is quote unquote bad, or the stuff that made me feel negative emotions, or the stuff that put me down, that's actually the stuff that embodied the greatest amount of learning lessons, after which, learning from those situations, I was able to figure out not to do them again and improve the quality of my life moving forward. So if that bad shit didn't happen in the past, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So in essence, I strive to give meaning to the events in my life as happening for me rather than to me, as if there's some grander plan out there, as if the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and we are not exactly aware of what the process of them is to come together. But at the end of the day, this is why the Stoics used to say amore fati, all right, loving your fate, loving everything that happens to you, because it is part of a grander plan. Now, who knows if that's true or not? Who knows if that's actually the case? But if you begin to embody that mindset, embody that belief, then I can assure you that, at least in my own life, some pretty remarkable stuff has been happening, and all the bad stuff that, quote unquote, like I said, bad stuff, has actually been turned out to be the domino effect that led to all the good stuff happening in my life. So love your fate, love everything that happens to you, because life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And that brings us to the fifth life lesson from Marcus Aurelius, and that is that everything is change. And I quote, constant awareness that everything is born from change. The knowledge that there's nothing nature loves more than to alter what exists and make new things like it. All that exists is the seed of what will emerge from it. You think that only seeds are the ones that make plants and children? Go deeper. So a truism of life is that the only constant in life is change. Nothing is permanent. Everything is transient. And I've seen this with myself. How it applies is with my emotions. All right, some days I'm up, some days I'm down, some days I'm very up, sometimes I'm very down. And the point is that you have to detach from your emotions and from your everyday life situations. You can't be attached to something that is outside of your control. All right, and this is what the Buddha also says, and he preaches about detachment. All right, and Jay Shetty actually has a quote, and I think he was quoting someone else, but it's that detachment is not when you own nothing. Detachment is when nothing owns you. So Vipassana meditation, which is a type of meditation which is thought to come directly from the line of the Buddha himself, is the practice of detachment. All right, detaching yourself from everything in this material world, detaching yourself from your emotions, and just riding the wave as it comes. All right, you're not, when you're up, all right, you enjoy it. When you're down, You can ponder it and figure out why you're down so that you won't be in the future, but at the end of the day, not getting attached to anything, because everything is changing, all right? Your relationships, the dynamics are changing. Your financial situation, it's changing. Everything is changing in this world, and the point is to embrace it rather than deny it. And that brings us to the 6th life lesson from Marcus Aurelius, and that is not to lose your temper. And I quote, "When you start to lose your temper, remember that there's nothing manly about rage. It's courtesy and kindness that define a human being and a man. That's who possesses strength and nerves and guts, not the angry whiners. Pain is the opposite of strength, and so is anger. Both are things we suffer from and yield to." Think about the last time that you lost your temper, all right? Now, that was a result of you being at the effect of situations outside of your control. You were a victim of external circumstances. That's why anger and rage, like he says, are emotions that are a result of you losing control of yourself, all right? And like Aristotle says, being angry is easy, but to be angry at the right person, at the right time, for the right duration, for the right reason, that's hard, all right? So you have to, I mean, sure, it's a useful emotion. You can use rage to motivate yourself. You can use rage to address something that someone else did, but the bottom line is that you have to be consciously control of your emotions, all right? You have to know when to express the right emotions at the right time, at the right person, for the right reason, rather than being at the effect of situations outside of your control which cause you to experience these emotions, i.e. you being the victim of external circumstances. So don't think that anger is something that makes you more manly, because like Marcus Aurelius says, you are basically at you're yielding to these emotions rather than causing them for a particular result that you desire. And that brings us to my 7th final lesson from Marcus Aurelius that I've learned, and that is to maintain your equanimity, all right? Now, this is a quote that I memorized and I try to say to myself every single day because it is something that's applicable to me every single day. And I quote, "When force of circumstance upsets your equanimity, lose no time in recovering your self-control, and do not remain out of tune longer than you can help. Habitual recurrence to the harmony strengthens your mastery of it." And this is something that a philosopher by the name of Brian Johnson, I highly recommend you check him out at optimize.me, but Brian Johnson describes it as the equanimity game, all right? It's a game you're playing. So when you're in the harmony, some factor upsets your equanimity. It always happens. I mean, you're not going to be 100% control of your emotions. So when something upsets your harmony, you see how fast you can get back to it, all right? That's a practice that you have to practice on a moment-to-moment basis, and each time you get off your harmony, either or way, you strive to get back to the golden mean. And a great way to do this is by taking control of your breathing. So for example, if you're driving, for example, this is something that I've gone through. I'm driving, someone comes close, they cut me off, it's almost gonna hit my car. I feel the spike of emotions, I feel the spike of cortisol, but the most important thing to do at this moment is to take a deep breath directly into your belly, or as Elliot Hulse would say, into your balls, all right? So anytime you feel a stressful situation, focus on your breathing, because if you can control your breathing, you can control your state, you can control your hormones, and you can control your state of being as well, all right? Because force of circumstance will upset your equanimity, but the point is, the game is to see how fast you can recover it and not losing any time in recovering your self-control either. And the more you play this game, the better you will get at it, and the more you will have a control of your emotions. So that's a quick look at my 7 life lessons from Marcus Aurelius. I highly recommend that you buy the book. I'll link out to it on Amazon below, because it is one of the most influential books for not only me, but a bunch of influential people as well, all right? Bill Clinton actually reads it every single day. Ryan Holiday, who's the modern day philosopher, says it's the most important book that he ever read. And there are just countless other examples that Meditations has influence on a bunch of other people as well, all right? With all that being said, I highly recommend you get the book, read it, and link out to the Hayes translation, because that's the one that's the best. And with all that being said, once again, this has been Mo Salim from tripleyourt.com, and I'll see you soon.